Hey everybody, it's Spirit, and we are back with another Archetype 101, the series where I give you guys the quick gist about what an Archetype wants to do. Now mind you, this isn't a deck profile. I'm not going to tell you how many cards and what kind of text to run into your deck. But what this does give you is a quick 5 to 10 minute summary about what exactly an Archetype is trying to do, so that if you really understand the deck, you'll know that if you want to pick it up, or at least you'll have the understanding of what the deck is trying to do against you, so that when you do face it in the next meta, you'll be able to combat it. But with that said, guys, of course, if you want to pick up any of the singles or cards that I talked about in today's video, I highly recommend you guys go check out 3 Mana, the channel sponsor. They have the best prices across Canada. They can't be beat for all of your Digimon single and sealed needs. And of course, if you guys want to see these type of decks piloted, I do stream on Twitch every single week, Tuesday through Thursday, and on weekends during tournaments. So link to that will be down in the description down below. But with that said, let's jump right into UlforceVeedramon. And of course, the entire reason to play the deck is Ulforce himself, a huge, powerful mega that costs 13 to play or 3 to evo, which is pretty much the sweet spot in regards to megas, with 11k DP, which is worrying, but there are ways that we can provide jamming to Ulforce, which mitigates that. And then on your turn, when one of your blue Tamers becomes suspended, unsuspend this Digimon. And this is not once per turn, which is really great in being effectively kind of set up an OTK with your opponent. With the right amount of Tamers, you can effectively attack your opponent 5, 6, 7 times. I mean, mind you, that's super high roll, and the odds of you doing it that often are unlikely. But in combination with the amount of jamming stuff that is in the deck, you can actually pressure your opponent, realistically 2 to 3 times minimum just with Ulforce, and that in combination with everything else that your deck is trying to do, puts you in a really sweet spot to be able to take out your opponent. Additionally, on your turn, once per turn, when this Digimon comes unsuspended during your main phase, you gain 1 memory. So as a bonus for doing that, we get a refresh of 1 memory. And honestly, there's a couple of plays that if we have at least enough memory to be able to play out some more stuff, puts us in a position where we can set up some really nice maneuvers for ourselves. Also, gives us a position where we could play a 2 cost if we're at 1 after evoing into Ulforce to then choke out our opponent, which gives them very few ways to answer what we just played out. So what support do we have going into this? What Tamers allow us to be able to play as effectively as we can? And the first one to come to mind is Taikamiya, the V-Tamer promo, where it has an activate main ability. If you have a Digimon with Veedramon in its name, you may suspend this Tamer to activate the following effects. You get to draw 1 card, or give one of your Digimon 1k DP for the turn. The 1k DP is great in the case that you don't have jamming, then at least you can start bumping up your Ulforce to be at a DP case where it's unlikely to die. Going from 11 to 12 already by itself is a huge amount, and once you hit 13, then your only real threat is basically Omnimon at that point. And if not, then you just get to draw a card, push up your advantage even higher, and then get an extra swing with your Ulforce. Additionally, the other Tamer that works really well with this archetype is Rina Shinamiya, where on your turn, when one of your blue Digimon attacks, you may suspend this Tamer to give that Digimon 1k DP for the turn. And that's really strong in the fact that you can do it on the swing. So when you attack with Ulforce the first time, you can activate this, and then by activating this in the middle of combat, it turns your Ulforce into a 12k, which is awesome. That's super strong. And then on play, you get to reveal top 2 cards of your deck, add 1 V Digimon in its name to your hand, and then bottom the rest of the cards. Of course, just upping the consistency we're able to have the deck. And these first 2 Tamers are the ones that we're really trying to focus on, and being able to push the advantage and multiple different inheritables that Ulforce will gain to go and push for game. However, pretty much every blue Tamer has the ability to suspend itself to proc its skill, so we have to consider them if you ever want to go down that route. First off with Madashida, where on the side of your turn, if you have 2 or less, you go to 3, which is awesome, really prevents memory choking, and assures that when you go into Ulforce, you'll actually be able to play him out and still get attacks with him right away. And then on your turn, if you play a blue Digimon, you get to suspend Mat to go ahead and remove a source from a Digimon. So of course, while it's a little finicky because you're already paying 3 to go into Ulforce, if you do actually have the memory, then this enables another attack and also removes an inheritable, which is a nice bonus if you can't kill your opponent right out and then there. And finally, to round out the Tamers that suspend themselves, we have Joe Kaido, where on your turn, when one of your opponent's Digivolution cards is trashed, you may suspend this Tamer to gain 1 memory. So we get the additional memory, which is cool, allows us to extend our plays even more, and works really well if we have an inheritable, like let's say Zurumon, which allows us to remove a source from under one of our opponent's Digimon. And these Tamers really round out the multiple ways that we'll be able to attack multiple times with our Ulforce. But of course, there are other cards that support that. What kind of inheritables can we go ahead and give our Ulforce to make it even better, or at least the pieces as we go up into it? Looking first at the Digitamers, we do have this Demi-Vmon, where once per turn, when this Digimon becomes unsuspended during your main phase, it gets 1k DP for the turn. So this one working really well with the V Tamer, because it does have to be on the main phase, and then pushes your Ulforce to be a 12-13k, making it harder to die. But the one you are most likely to lean on more often is this Demi-Vmon, where when attacking once per turn, if the Digimon has jamming, trigger draw 1. Most of the Veedramon line actually revolves around jamming, getting a lot of attacks and making sure that it doesn't die. So you actually get the benefit of really being able to push a lot of damage and draw a lot of cards. So because we're not going to be running Upamon most likely, I mean, you still could, and that would be probably the right thing to do. But because we can more consistently set up jamming with this deck, this is a phenomenal route to go. Then we go into our rookies, where we have Vmon with the inheritable that on your turn, once per turn, when this Digimon becomes unsuspended during your main phase, trigger draw 1. So again, getting even more draws the more we unsuspend, and this actually works really well, not only with Ulforce, but there's also a champion available to us that will help out in that front. And then the other Vmon, 3 cost 2k with jamming. So now we're really seeing that this deck really wants to push jamming attacks, getting a bunch of attacks, and it's really powerful because having a rookie that can attack and you know is going to survive is a huge tempo swing. It then allows you to go into a champion, making it harder for your opponent to kill it, or there's a number of cards that allows you to restand your blue Digimon. We've seen that multiple times in blue, and specifically in the Veedramon archetype, we see that as well. Moving on to the champions now, we see even more of this jamming support. So we do have the secret rare from set 1 that costs 3 to evo or 6 to play, 6k DP. When attacking once per turn, if you have a Tamer in play, you unsuspend this Digimon. Now this is, I wouldn't say this is the best choice just because it is so expensive to play out, but if you are in a position where you need to attack multiple times with one Digimon, this does give you that ability. At 6k DP without jamming, it does make it tougher to survive, but it's not impossible to get there. And it does have the inheritable that if you have a blue Tamer in play, the Digimon gets an additional 1k DP. Alternatively, you can go for this inset Veedramon, where on your turn, while you have a blue Tamer on play, this Digimon gets jamming. Now, while it's not multiple attacks like the secret rare, it does have jamming, which means you have a greater chance of the card surviving. And at that point, I think that's really what this deck is trying to do. Push out as many jamming attacks, make sure you can survive the entire way up your chain, and then from there, finish with a powerful Ulforce that can attack for the little few bits that there might be left, or if there just happens to be a lot left, then start really pushing in that damage. To bring it all together though, we do have X Vmon, where when it digivolves, you get to unsuspend when you're level 4 or lower Digimon. This is a super powerful ability in that, you see, we have a bunch of jamming attackers, and nothing is greater than having a bunch of jamming attackers that also get to attack multiple times. So X Vmon here works wonderfully with our 3 drops, with other 4 drops, to really be able to push our opponent in and chip away at their life at no punishment, because everything we have is jamming. And based on our inheritables, we also get to draw cards. So we're in a really great position to be able to push out a lot of early aggro that then tops off with our powerful Ulforce. Then when we look at the ultimates, probably the most key card as far as inheritables we're looking for this deck is Arrow Veedramon. H to play, 3 to evo, 7k DP when digivolving. If you have a blue Tamer in play, unsuspend when you're blue Digimon. So again, pushing up that aggro even more, allowing us to go into our aggro even more and more. And this one is just straight up blue Digimon, which means even if we're in a position where we have a really, like for some reason we already have a Mega on board, or we already have another ultimate on board, we can start attacking for great damage. And the most key part, the inheritable, where on your turn, when this Digimon comes unsuspended during your main phase, it gains jamming. So your first swing won't get jamming with Ulforce, unfortunately, if you use the Nina, just because you won't give it jamming right away, but you would be in a position to give an extra 1k DP to probably survive the first swing. And then from there, it's free rolling from there, which is awesome. And then you're going to start getting your draws and all the other skills that come with that, which is amazing. But with that said, that was UlforceVeedramon, guys, a super powerful archetype that has a top end that can effectively OTK your opponent with the right board setup, but will probably be the finishing blow to an aggressively jamming packed swing from your level 3s and level 4s to close out the game. With that said, guys, are you guys excited to play Ulforce? I think it's a super sweet archetype, and you know, regardless of competitiveness, I think it's going to be a lot of fun to be able to attack over and over and over again, especially with all that jamming making our opponent's life very, very difficult. So let me know in the comments down below. If you guys like the video, give it a thumbs up. Hey, if you dislike it, thumbs down works too. If you want to watch more of my videos, I'm doing Archetype 101s. We're going to get more gameplay on the channel and more things to get us jazzed about set 1.5. Then subscribe button's in the corner. And with that said, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Ciao.